Okay, so we're back and we are off and running with our very first set of techniques and cards. I'm going to be working with cards for this one. Techniques that I'm going to show you guys how to do. So, for this one, what you're going to need is you can either use just some regular acrylic, tempera, any kind of paint like this. This is just like craft paint. Yeah, anything you have kicking around. I mean, I suppose maybe you could, in a pinch, use a different kind of paint, like maybe some wall paint or something like that, but just be careful in terms of your fingers and inhaling and stuff like that. You're going to need a glue stick. Glue stick is key. That's a really, really important thing. Some scrap paper. I've got some scrap notebook paper, and I've got a piece of scrap graph paper, and I managed to get this away from my son. So I've got actually a sheet of homework paper or like a handout that isn't going to be used. Make sure it's not going to be used, though. You don't want to get in trouble when we get back to school. So I'm going to actually do two different kinds of cards, or same techniques, but on two different cards so you guys can see a little bit of variety. So the first thing we're going to start out with is going and adding some paper onto these existing cards or onto your art journal page or whatever it is that you're going to do. And I like to rip. That's one thing that I really, really like to do. And I like things to have text. And let's see here. What I want to do is I also want to take a piece of scrap paper. When you're gluing, okay, very important, when you're gluing, it is helpful to have a glue stick and a piece of scrap paper so that as you're working, you can go clear off the page. When you're looking at me gluing this down, you see how I'm going off the page. And by doing that, that means that when I go and I smooth this down, it means that I'm going to have, I know that there's going to be glue all the way around the edges, so it's really going to get stuck down on there. The other thing I can do with that scrap paper is now I can fold it to a place where I know that there's no glue on it because that's on the inside, and then I can take my fingers and I can smooth it down on top of this. It's not going to rub this around or anything like that, but it is going to make sure that it gets really, really stuck on there. The other thing that was kind of interesting to me was using this edge right here. I thought this was kind of cool, like using some of these edges. So I'm going to go like that. I think I'm going to try to put that guy, I don't know, maybe like right there. And now he's become scrap paper, so I'm going to go. This is going to be trickier with the glue stick. So you kind of want to go this way and be a little gentle with it so that you're not ripping all that good texture. But go and add it there. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to glue that down. I think something like that. All right. Just like that. And after after the glue dries, you can take a pair of scissors, and mine's not dry yet. Don't do this, it'll wreck your scissors. But you're going to trim off the excess, or maybe you don't. I don't know. It's up to you. It's your artwork. So if that's what you want to do, I like to cut mine off. I like to have a nice clean edge so that there's contrast. So number one is all set. Number two is going to be all set. For this one, I'm going to use some ripped pieces of graph paper. And I need my piece that I can put underneath my glue stick so I can really get it good all the way around the edge. And then glue it down like that. Take the clean side, go like that. You'll see what I did in a second. However, I have managed to go and glue it to the background paper. Try not to do that. And again, if you want to, you can remove the edge. Got that one, and I still really like the look of this. That one's got a hole in it, so I'm going to use this as well. Just stuff that's around the house. Weird stuff that's around the house. You can use magazines for this. You can use pretty much anything that you want that's paper that you can glue stick down and that you're not going to get yelled at for taking it. And I actually like all those lumps and bumps in this one. I'm trying to get them to lay flat because I am going to add some paint to them. So I do want them to lay flat. I'm going to have to get rid of that little guy. And then I'm going to fold my paper again. Smooth it down so it's really on there. Really, really good. And then can see I got a little stuck. Pulled it up a little bit. You can always glue it back down. If it gets pulled up, you can always glue it back down. And then trim off the excess, in my case. I don't know if that's going to survive. I feel like I might need a little bit more glue. It'll get off of me. A little bit more glue on the edge there. You just kind of lift it up. Just do your best. Try to get it lay flat. It's helpful. Okay, so we've got everything glued down. I'm going to move some of this so you guys can see the painting process. And now we're going to start adding the acrylics. And where did my watercolors go? Oh, there they are. And some acrylics, or no, I'm sorry, acrylics and watercolor. So we are ready to roll with that. For acrylics, it's a little different. You don't have to use a brush if you don't want to use a brush. I'm feeling like this one's going to be acrylic. And again, it's nice to have a little piece of scrap paper off to the side. And what I like to do is just squeeze out a little bit of paint. You'd be surprised how far the paint goes. Like that, just a pinch. I like to mix colors. I usually try to mix colors that are next or similar in color. Like these are all cool colors, so they're going to blend together. If I can get the darn thing to go. There we go. That was a little extra. And then sometimes with a little bit of white as well. And I'm going to actually use my fingers this time. I have a piece of brown paper here just to protect my background. You can see the acrylic paint gets everywhere. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to smooth it in. And what's neat is when you use the lighter colors, you can still see some of that background shining through. And then when you start mixing, awesome, fun things start to happen. Darker paints, they do have a tendency to mute out like the background stuff. So you want to make sure, if you want to practice on something else, you can. But you can also see like the edge of the paper, like where the kind of the edge of that is, and that makes kind of a fun texture as well. I like to cover the whole thing. You don't have to cover the whole thing. If you want to do just a portion of it, leave some of it bare, you can do that. I have a tendency to cover a lot of stuff, so but that's me. That's the way that I work. You'll find the way that you work. It's okay to go off the page onto your protective sheet. You want to mix a little different color, kind of a softer right there. And fun things are happening. You can see like a little bit of the paper. I'm feeling like maybe there's a way to kind of skim over this and try to pick up some of that, the edge there. Or maybe not. Part of this is experimentation, just kind of seeing what works and everything. But there is one colored background. And now I'm all done with my acrylic paint, so I can set that aside. I'm going to move over to this guy. And you can see that this one is already starting to bend up a little bit because of just the glue, the wetness of the glue. So if that's happening with this harder, poster board type stuff, then you can imagine what it's going to do to paper. So, I mean, you'll find out, if it works or if it doesn't work, or maybe you like the effect of it kind of curling. It's up to you. And for this one, I'm going to do a very different set of colors. I'm going to do some pinks, and you just need to, use your water, wet the paint palette, and then just start kind of smoothing on. And definitely with the watercolor, you're going to be able to see the words through, which is kind of fun. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the blue, where I kind of end up blending some colors together, light and dark, just to kind of see how it ends up looking. And once this dries, you can always go back and you can add more if you need to. You can always paint on top of it. You can see the paper quality changing, like how this handout right here, it's starting to kind of break down a little bit, not the end of the world, but it's kind of breaking down a little bit. And but the background paper, this thicker stuff, is staying intact. on. That does nice things right there with the texture of that ripped piece of notebook paper. Just kind of keep building this up, just like that. Until either, again, if you cover the whole thing, then that's your business. If you don't want to cover the whole thing, then you can leave little pieces of it white still. We're going to do even more stuff to it in just a moment. All right, so I've given these time to dry, and you can see the results are pretty interesting, I think. This is the one that had the acrylic paint on it that was smeared on top of the graph paper as well as the notebook paper edge. You can see some of the details through it still, adds a little bit of visual interest. And then this guy right here, he's the watercolor paints on top of the handout and, again, the notebook paper. So this next step is pretty easy stuff. All you need is just a regular pencil. And I'm just going to do, I think for this one kind of more abstract, just kind of some freehand doodles. Just kind of whatever you want. I'm a big shape person. I like to draw shapes. I just think that they're interesting and they're a great way to kind of get me organized with making an artwork that I enjoy making. And I'm just kind of, I'm not thinking too much about it. I'm just kind of taking a look at what is there and just kind of filling the space a little bit. You don't have to fill as much as I do. Maybe you want to fill less. I like to mix up my lines and do little dash lines, as well as I like to make little tiny circles. I'm a big fan of circles inside of these things. So there's that one. I don't know, maybe a little something up here, just a little peekaboo or something. Maybe like a single dot in the center right there, just to kind of do that. I think I'm kind of looking at it this way. So this is how I'm thinking that this card is going to end up existing. And then for this one I'm not quite sure what to do with. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get another material that I know a lot of you guys have around. How about some markers? Got some markers. I like black if you wanted to kind of stick with the idea of, you know, working with another color, you know, like red or something like that, because we've already got some red going, then that could be interesting. And what to do with this one? Oh, I know. I like, and you guys may or may not have this size Sharpie at home, but I got a lot of stuff, so. But at the absolute least, and I like making like kind of positivity plus signs on my stuff. And you can do whatever you want. Like if you want to do, you know, more circles, or if you want to do kind of more angular stuff, that's definitely something that you can do. Let me see if this guy is actually working. Yeah, he is. I feel like, I don't know. It really is just kind of, I'm going to kind of redo some of those same ideas on the other one. And with this, it really stands out because it is so dark. And I like it because I think it competes with this that we can see pretty well. I think I'm going to do just like a big shape like that. You can see it kind of start to fall into your own style. And I'll put up a couple. This definitely has like an abstract feel to it. It does not right now have like a real focal point. It's just kind of exploring the different shapes that I'm making and like kind of letting the colors speak and stuff like that. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this is going to backfire on me or not, but I'm doing it. I also have a theory that sometimes borders make it better. So oftentimes I'll go and I will put a little border on things to kind of keep your eye inside the work. Now I'm getting border crazy. Watch out. hold me back. Or don't, it's just fun. You can do whatever you want. It's just a little piece of paper. If you mess it up, you make another one till you're happy. Or you find some way to kind of resurrect it. Yeah, I'm liking them. I'm liking them. All right. So the paint has come back out. Got a little bit more paint. And one thing that I wanted to show you guys was just the same way that using the black, how it kind of makes things pop. Sometimes you can use a little bit of white paint to also make things pop. If you have a paintbrush, you know, that's great. You can use a paintbrush to spread your paint. But another cool thing is that you can actually use is you can potentially use, let me dry off my brush. You can potentially use the back of the paintbrush. See how like perfectly round this is? This is perfect for picking up a little bit of paint and then kind of dabbing on. I think I'm going to dab over these little guys and see what a nice mark that makes. So that's kind of fun. Over these guys. It's just like a little pop of color. Does something a little different than, you know, the way that we usually use a paintbrush. And then another thing you can do is you can actually take a pencil tip if you want a smaller mark. I think I'm going to go, you can't really see it over here. I'm going to go into a darker area so you can actually see it. Little pokey dots like that, so you can make smaller ones. And then, I mean, like, you can continue to kind of play with it. Like, if you feel like you want to go back in and add a little bit more, you know, kind of along the edge to kind of, you know, do like a border situation, you can do that. This is, my brush is still a little bit wet, so that's how come it's kind of behaving differently than when I spread it out with my fingers. And you can get your fingers back in there if you want to. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but someone's at my house because my dog is barking. You can actually wet it down intentionally if you want to make it a little bit more transparent. There you go, and with another border. Kind of smooth it in. He really is a good dog. He's just noisy. God bless him. You can kind of keep picking at it like that, or let it just go. And then I like to do the same thing kind of over here. Oh, actually, you know what would be even better here? Let us get the white colored pencil. You would be surprised the magic that a little bit of white colored pencil can bring to an artwork like this. I mean, it works best on top of the black where you can kind of see it, but like, look at that. Adds a little bit more visual interest. You can kind of blend it a little bit. The bigger question is, what do we want to do for the focal point? Do we want to do anything for the focal point? So anyways, you can just keep kind of picking at these. And I'm going to keep doing that. And you guys can watch this evolve while I kind of do my thing. And you can decide if you want to continue or if you just want to stop. Okay, so the only thing that I did off camera was I continued to pick a little bit more at these and do a little bit more doodling. Like I increased the edges of the borders, I filled in the circles a little bit, you know, that type of thing. But overall, I feel like this guy is done and he's going to live kind of as being more of an abstract card or, you know, art journal page. Whereas this guy, I feel like he needs a little something else. And I don't know if it's just a matter of adding some imagery here. But when I was like looking at this handout, I like to use words a lot. And I was noticing in this, what is it? It's a fractals. It says in the directions here, continue the same process. And those words just kind of stuck out to me. So I'm going to take a moment, just kind of cut these out. Let's see how they look if I use them as a way to kind of finish off this card. Give something for people to look at and try to understand and be like, what the heck is that about? So I'm going to go with continue the same process. And again, this was all found just from stuff, well, I like it already, just from stuff that was, you know, came home with you in your backpack. So I'm going to get out my glue stick again, use a little piece of scrap, and flip these over. They're delicate, so you have to be a little careful and thoughtful with them. Glue it down, pretty easy. Get them up. Stagger it a little bit. I like those white spots that it's like right up against. Sometimes when things are a little off center or staggered, they are more interesting, so that's something to keep in mind. But again, it's all about the process and the experimentation, and you'll figure out what works well for you. So I'm going to go with continue the same process. And now I feel like it is a little bit more complete. Maybe a little bit more doodling somewhere around here, but I think for right now I'm just going to sit with it, and if I have to, I can always add more later. It's harder to take things away, so I think I'm just going to rest there and call it a day for right now. So there it is, your first lesson in adding some mixed media layers, hopefully in what will become an art journal, and I'll be back with you guys for more techniques another time. All right, thanks for joining me.